Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your morning is going great. Mine's been fantastic. I am super hyped, guys, because you know it already. The title of the video is Mangachu good enough for the Overwatch League? Now, this is one of the very first series, one of the very first videos I ever made on this channel, and pretty much what gave this channel initial success is X player good enough for the Overwatch League? We did Defran, XQC, Gale, Shatter 2K, and then the league started and we kind of got busy covering the games, and it just faded away. Here and there, I've seen a few comments saying, hey, you should bring back the series, and well, guys, guess what? We're bringing it back today, and we're doing it with Mangachu. So I just want to say, for everyone who is hyped to see this video, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and pause the video, drop a like down below, comment which player you want to see next, and do the biggest favor for yourself and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You know you want to stay updated on all this Overwatch League content. You'll never miss out on anything that has to do with the news, controversy, drama, or videos like this, so subscribe right now. And so the way this video is going to be formatted is we will first start off talking about Mangachu's past history. So we're going to start from the very first Overwatch Pro team he played on to the very last. Then I will rate his career overall so far up until this point. So if it's been very successful, we'll give it a 10. If it hasn't been so good, we'll give him maybe a 1 or a 2. Then moving on from that, I am going to give my personal experiences and opinion on Mangachu. As many of you know, I once was a professional player, and Mangachu was a guy I competed against a ton. So I will share some of my personal experiences with him, how good I think he is, and of course this will all lead up to the final question, whether or not I think Mangachu is good enough for the league. So as you guys know, I asked you to comment down below who you want to see in this series next, so that means I am going to be bringing this series back, and we're going to be doing it a ton. I also want to integrate you guys into the series and allow you to make some choices with me. So for example, again, you guys will be choosing who I am going to be doing next, and also at the end of the video, I want you guys to all go down to my comment that I pin, which has a link to a straw poll, voting on whether or not you guys think the player in the video is good enough for the Overwatch League. For in this case, it's going to be Mangachu. So let's go ahead and jump straight into the series and talk about why I chose Mangachu. So obviously yesterday, I started talking about a lot of players that didn't make the Overwatch League that most of us expected to make it. And so many of you guys were down in the comments saying you definitely think Mangachu is good enough for the league. And personally, at that time, I had no idea whether or not he was good enough for the Overwatch League, and that made me want to sit down for a couple minutes and just think about it. Is he really good enough? So that's what really sparked me wanting to make this video and bring in the series back. So you guys can give yourselves a pat on the back. Technically, you are the ones who brought it back because you kept asking these questions, and it got me thinking. Mangachu's had a very long career. He's been competing in the professional Overwatch scene since the very beginning. He's always been a really strong projectile player, and that's why everyone wanted to see him join the Dallas Fuel. But as we all know, unfortunately now, that is not going to happen. And now let's go ahead and jump into his career history. So as I said, he's had a very long career. He started almost at the very beginning of Overwatch's existence. His first tournament he competed in on June 26th, 2016, barely a month after the game was fully released, on a team called Northern Gaming Red. So this was his very first professional team and where he really made a name for himself. The name of this tournament was called the OG Invitational, and this tournament actually had some amazing competition. At the time, it was the best teams in the entire world. We're talking about Cloud9, who had Surefour, that original team who was one of the best in North America with like Reaver, Grego, Adam. It also had Team Liquid, who had some really star players at the time, AZK, Dummy, obviously Team Envy was in there, who was the best team hands down in the world. Their original roster, Internet Hulk, Coco, Chips Hyen, Harry Hook, Taimu, and Tailspin. Rest in peace to that roster, by the way, and Internet Hulk. Those guys were amazing. That's when they were on their incredible tear. I had Luminosity Gaming, who had Siegel on their team, Gods, Pooks, Gale Force Esports, who eventually turned into Complexity. That was Harblue's team with the TJO twins, as well as Joe Meister, who played for the Philadelphia Fusion, Shake, who was a coach for Boston Uprising, then of course Northern Gaming Red, who is the team Mangachu was on. His teammates were Bird, Bread Expert, Naptime, Wolf, and Chance. Definitely some unknown people there. Some of you guys might know Bird, but for the rest of them, kind of all gone, as well as Splice, and lastly FaZe Clan, who had Mendo Kusai. That was even before Shadowburn played with them. And for a debut, this was an amazing tournament for Mangachu. He got 3rd place, beating teams like Cloud9, FaZe Clan, and Gale Force Esports, which at the time was huge for them because those were all really big organizations. Again, Cloud9 guys, they were on an absolute tear. FaZe Clan and NG Red was able to take them down with Mangachu. Now after this tournament, it didn't go all so well for NG Red and Mangachu. They eventually dropped out of Overwatch, there was a lot of drama with them, and Mangachu moved on. The next team he played for was the Renegades, and he competed in Overwatch Winter Premiere, which was actually a tournament I competed in, and I played against him multiple times in, which I will get into later in the video. Overwatch Winter Premiere was definitely a strong tournament with some of the best teams in the West competing in it, besides like Envious and Cloud9. Unfortunately for Renegades and Mangachu, it didn't go all that well. They placed 6th out of 8th, and then they moved on and competed in the Overwatch Carbon Series, which was another tier 2 tournament at the time. They placed 3rd here, beating out teams like Complexity. And Mangachu was definitely playing very well for Renegades at the time. He was one of the stronger players on the roster, and he was really making a name for himself on that Pharah, which really landed him a spot on Team Canada in the 2017 Overwatch World Cup, where he did share playing time with the other DPSs, Agilities, and Surefour. As we all know, the 2017 Overwatch World Cup team ended up getting 2nd place. They lost in the finals 4-1 to South Korea. He then moved on and competed in Overwatch Contenders 2017 Season 0 and Season 1. Now this was Contenders before the actual contender structure we had now. Teams like Envious, Cloud9, Mine, and others competed in this. And Renegades, well, they didn't do all that good. They got 8th out of 8th, so dead last in the tournament. And this was probably the big factor in Mangachu not making Season 1, just the fact that he was on the worst team in North America at the time. And Overwatch Contenders 2017 Season 1 was the very last tournament he played with Renegades and all those players. He then moved on to compete for XL2 in the actual Season 1 of 2018 North American Contenders. And to be honest, in Season 1 of North American Contenders with XL2, Mangachu and his teammates really flopped. A lot of us were expecting them to be one of the strongest teams going into North American Contenders because they had the likes of Flower, Nene. Maybe they did have a questionable pickup in their main tank with Clone Man, but I still think he played fairly decent. In my opinion, it was just an overall lack of performance, maybe a coaching issue, not too sure. They did qualify for the playoffs, but they ended up losing in the first round to Envision. It was a pretty big upset at the time, and then they moved on to Season 2, and they definitely made some roster changes. They picked up a ton of Koreans, specifically for their tank line. They picked up Tizzy, who was an ex-main tank for Runaway, and they signed Huyal, who was London Spitfire's off-tank in the Overwatch League. So those were 2 huge signings for them, and it definitely bolstered them in Season 2, making it all the way to the grand finals, where they did lose out to Philadelphia Fusions University 0-4. Now throughout these 2 seasons, Mangachu impressed me. He improved his hero pool. Going into it, we definitely thought he was going to be a Pharah one-trick and definitely sub out most of the time for Flower. But to be honest, by the end of Season 2, it was kind of questionable whether Mangachu might have been better than Flower. Now I know some of you guys might agree or disagree with that, but the fact is, Mangachu was playing decent, and it seemed like Flower wasn't really popping off all that well. I don't know if he just knew he was going to be in the Overwatch League and didn't care, but we're not here to talk about Flower, we're here to talk about Mangachu. And again, Mangachu really impressed me, specifically in that 2nd season, picking up a strong Sombra, a strong Genji. Obviously he can flex to that Torb, and his Pharah even got better, and this landed him a spot on Team Canada once again in the 2018 World Cup. In the 2018 World Cup, I honestly didn't expect Mangachu to play much over Agilities or Surefour, just because Surefour and Agilities both popped off in Season 1 of the Overwatch League, and it seemed like they would definitely get most of the start time. But Jane and Team Canada coaching staff definitely did give Mangachu some playing time. They worked him in, and it wasn't just on the Pharah either. He was playing that Doomfist, which was really impressive. We saw it on Busan a few times, and then of course when he was on that Pharah, he was popping off. Team Canada, they ended up placing 3rd place, beating out Team UK in the 3rd place, 4th place match. Overall, I'd say Mangachu has had a pretty successful career. He's managed to stay afloat in the North American scene for 2 years straight now. Sure, he's had some rough patches where he competed on some bad teams like Renegades, but he came back and he competed on XL2, who got a 2nd place finish in North American Contenders, and back-to-back huge performances in World Cups where he took medals home for Canada. I'd say looking at his track record, he's on the cusp of maybe making the Overwatch League, and if I had to rate his career so far, I'd say it's around a 7 or 7.5. Of course, that would be like an 8 or a 9 if he was in the Overwatch League, because that's highly successful, but he's pretty much nailed everything outside of the Overwatch League. A great World Cup performance, a great Contenders performance, competing with great Korean players, competing with great North American players. He's honestly done a lot of it. So my final rating for him is going to be a 7.5. Now let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about my previous experiences with Mangachu, because I definitely have a lot of them. So Mangachu started playing the game as a professional before me. As I said, he played with NG Red on June 26, 2016. That was barely before I started playing the game. I started around mid-July of 2016. So he was already established in the pro scene. But again, NG Red broke up, and this kind of gave him a break from teams, and he eventually found himself on Renegades as soon as I started rising to the tier 1 scene in North America with Kingmykl, and this was during the Overwatch Winter Premiere tournament. So the way Winter Premiere was formatted was a massive open invite tournament. There was about 1,000 teams competing in it. Yeah, I know, it's hard to believe, guys, but there really was. And out of those 4 qualifiers, only the top 8 performing teams would move on to the actual tournament. Those teams were Renegades, Mangachu's team, Cloud9, Complexity, Immortals, Fnatic, Luminosity Gaming, Team Liquid, and lastly Kingmykl, my team. Those were the top 8 qualified teams, but Cloud9 and Fnatic both dropped out after the qualifiers because they got invited to OGN. So FaZe Clan and Citizen7 took over their spots. Now in this tournament, there was 2 round robins, and Kingmykl was to face Renegades 3 times, and every single time we played them, it was so damn close. The only thing was we were in the quad tank meta, so this wasn't all that great of a time for Mangachu. He was stuck playing heroes like D.Va and Zarya, which historically he hasn't been all that great at, and honestly, Renegades wasn't that strong. We beat them all 3 times pretty handily, some were a little close, but we were by far the better team. Now after Winter Premiere, it wasn't until Contenders Season 0 that I would face off against Renegades again. They were put in my team's group and we had to go up against each other twice. And now in this iteration of Renegades, they were very strong and we ended up tying them 2 times. So we had some really good games against them. The reason why Renegades was so strong in this meta is because it was the Pharah Mercy meta. Pharah had a huge rise, he was popping off, and I'll come back to this tournament a little bit after the next one. But this did lead up to North America 2017 Season 1 Contenders, where Renegades was absolutely the worst team in this tournament, hands down. They lost to my team, who got 7th place, and they lost to everybody else, going 0-8, getting dead last. Now, the unfortunate thing for Mangachu at this time was that he was once again forced onto D.Va because they didn't have an actual D.Va player. They ended up picking up Corey for a couple days. He ended up playing DPS over Mangachu, and this was the last time I ever competed against Mangachu. Again, a lot of it he was on an off-tank hero, besides in Season 0 of Contenders, which is why I want to focus on that the most, when we tied them 2-2 2 times in a row. And this is when I really got to see how good firsthand Mangachu's Pharah was. And from that day on, I have never said anybody in North America is a better Pharah than him unless they're in the Overwatch League. No one outside of the Overwatch League in NA will be able to compete with Mangachu ever. There's no way the guy's Pharah is too damn good. So that's my personal experiences going up against him. I have played him a lot, and I've definitely watched him grow throughout his career, especially in his most recent Contender season with XL2. He proved that he can play more than just Pharah at a high level. Sure, they might not be at a superb level, but he can still play them decently, and I do think it is enough to eventually earn him a spot in the Overwatch League as long as he keeps improving. So that does answer your question, guys. Yes, I do think Mangachu is good enough for the league. Maybe not at this very second, but if we give him 1 more season or maybe 6 more months, I think he can develop in a pretty good substitute role and maybe even a starting role similar to Agility's. Of course, that would require him to get much better at Genji and a few other heroes like Brigitte. Of course, become even better at Pharah, because that would be awesome. But my point is, Mangachu right now is on the right path. If he continues working hard and stays on that path, he can definitely make it. And considering that XL2 has made some really good coaching staff changes for next season, Adam moving in from the support role, I think he'll have a really big impact on Mangachu's career. And I cannot wait to see what Mangachu can do next season. Now be sure, guys, go down in the comments, check out the poll. I want to see everybody voting on whether or not you guys think Mangachu is good enough for the Overwatch League. Be sure to comment down below letting me know which player you want me to do next. Let me know if you did enjoy this video, you want me to continue bringing back the series. And lastly, subscribe, guys. You know you want to stay tuned for all this Overwatch League content every single day. That's going to be it for me. Thank you for watching the video, guys. I'm out of here. Peace.